Okay, so after thinking for a while about what to present here, I want to make it clear that I tried really, really hard to think of something wholesome. I sat around and allowed that to not happen for a few days before I decided, hey, screw it, just go with what you know. So let's talk about booze. Specifically, I'd like to talk about creating liquor infusions, a hobby that requires a lot of waiting and patience, and just like most things, we can totally hack the process with science. Like many of us, when I get bored, I like to experiment in the kitchen, but I'm personally not a big fan of cooking. I like to play around with booze instead. I've tried my hand at the classics, like jello shots and complicated cocktails, but one of my favorite things to play around with are infusions. There are a few different ways to incorporate flavor into your alcohol. Adding flavor as a syrup after fermentation is known as compounding. Adding flavors before fermentation is a part of distillation. And adding crushed or muddled herbs and other flavor components to your cocktail is called maceration. Infusion is the process of extracting flavor from ingredients by soaking them in the alcohol. Alcohol is a great medium for extracting flavor this way because the ethanol acts as a solvent on the oils in those ingredients, breaking them down and incorporating those flavor profiles directly into the drink itself. Infusions are traditionally made by letting your alcohol and your flavor compounds get to know each other over a long period of time. My go-to for homemade infused liqueur is Limoncello, which is an infusion of high-proof grain alcohol like a 100 proof vodka, or Everclear if you can get it, and lemon zest, which is then sweetened up by a simple syrup that also brings the proof back down to a more standard liqueur range of around 70 to 80. I usually use this recipe from Alton Brown for my ingredients when making limoncello. The process is a pretty simple one. You peel all the zest you can get off the lemons while trying to avoid the bitter-tasting white layer of pith under the surface as much as you can. Combine that zest with the alcohol in a sealed container and allow them to infuse over the course of 1 to 2 weeks. Over that time, the liqueur will take on a vibrant yellow color and become infused with all the bright lemon flavor that is given up by the oils in the zest. Once it's done infusing, you just strain it into a bottle and then add a simple syrup that is made by mixing equal parts sugar and water that are heated over a stove to fully combine. It's really good. The sweetness of the syrup, the brightness and tartness of the lemon, and the bite of the alcohol mix together really nicely. It's best sipped from a cairn glass or a shot glass after getting it nice and chilled in the freezer. I've played around a bit with variations on this same basic recipe. Here are some different infusions I made a while back. This first one is the classic limoncello. I had made this batch before trying out the others, which is why more than half of it is gone when I took the photo. I'm not overly patient. This one, which I have stupidly named Limoncello, is the exact same recipe, but substituting lime zest for the lemon zest. This one, perhaps even stupidlier named Orangecello, is once again the exact same idea, but with orange zest instead of lemon. This one was interesting, as the infusion of orange zest ended up tasting almost exactly like regular orange juice, and the whole liqueur wound up tasting just like a screwdriver, but one that takes 2 weeks to make. And this one, which came out super tasty, is an infusion of roasted pumpkin and cinnamon sticks and a syrup of 1 part brown sugar, 1 part cane sugar, and 2 parts water. These are fun to make and drink and all that, but there's just one little nagging problem with the overall infusion process. It just takes too long. Let's hack the system and get what we want faster using science. Our best method is to use heat to speed up the infusion process. Heating our infusion causes the plant tissue of our lemon zest to swell and the cells to burst, breaking down the flavor elements by disintegration and making our ethanol an even better solvent in the process. In order to do this properly, it's best to have a highly controlled method for raising the temperature to a certain point and keeping it there for as long as you need. That's why I like using a sous vide immersion circulator for this. This is an awesome kitchen device that circulates a water bath, constantly measuring the current temperature and either increasing or decreasing the heat output to keep the water at an exact set temperature for as long as you need, without ever changing by more than a degree or 2. It's great for cooking because you can place anything you would like to cook into a sealed airtight bag and submerge it in the water bath, and it will bring the internal temperature of that ingredient right up to the desired temp and keep it there for as long as you need without ever overcooking it. You can leave a steak in there for hours, and it will be perfectly cooked through and ready whenever you are. However, like I said, I'm not much of a cook. I'm gonna stick booze in this thing. To pull this off, I prepared the limoncello more or less the same way as before, zesting the lemons and combining the zest with the alcohol, but this time I've placed them together inside a Ziploc bag along with the sugar. All of the ingredients go straight into the bag from the start. I then remove as much air from the bag as possible before sealing it up and placing it into a sous vide water bath that has been set to a temperature of no higher than 171.5 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature limit of 171.5 is an important one, because the higher the temperature, the faster the infusion process will happen, and 171.5 degrees Fahrenheit is just about a degree below the boiling point of alcohol. If you go any higher than that point, you have something not entirely unlike a bomb on your hands, as the ethanol in there turns to vapor and expands, which would burst the bag, so we won't do that. To play it safe, I set mine to 135. At this temperature, the entire infusion process, one that took about 2 weeks using the cold infusion method, now only takes about 2 hours. Once it's done, you just remove the bag from the water bath, strain it out into a bottle, and let it chill in the freezer until it's ready to enjoy. This process works really well. You are potentially sacrificing some of the freshness and the flavor of the overall product, since you're also technically cooking the lemon peels during the infusion. But to my palate, I honestly can't tell the difference. Fight me. But hey, also, 2 hours? Who has 2 hours? I don't have 2 hours. Let's take things up a notch and really speed this process up, using positive pressure. The best way to accomplish an infusion using positive pressure is by using a whipped cream siphon and pressurized nitrous oxide gas charging cartridges. You can find these at certain restaurant supply stores, or, like everything else now, you can just order them off Amazon. What we'll do here is place the lemon peels and the vodka directly into the cream whipper and then seal it up tight. We then insert a nitrous oxide cartridge to charge the whipper. One 8-gram charger, when discharged into an empty whipped cream dispenser, creates a pressure of 30 pounds per square inch. We then shake the mixture around inside to help the ingredients get to know each other under this high pressure situation. Next, we bump up the pressure even higher by charging the whipper with a second cartridge. We're now at about 360 psi within the canister. We let this sit for a few minutes, and then we vent the gas by holding the whipper upright and squeezing the lever to vent the pressure rapidly, holding a glass over the nozzle and placing a bowl underneath to prevent the spray from making too much of a mess. When we open up the canister, we can see and hear that there's still all kinds of activity finishing up in there. So, what's happening here? Well, the extremely high pressure inside the whipper is forcing the gas into the liquid, and it is disrupting the pores of the solid lemon peels and also forcing the gas and the liquid into the peels. When we drop the pressure back down to normal, it causes the liquids to bubble back out of the solids. Moving the liquid back and forth like this facilitates the rapid extraction of flavors that we're looking for. When we're done, we now have an infusion that took mere minutes. Sure, we still have to make the simple syrup and cool that syrup and chill the entire liqueur down in the freezer before enjoying it if we want to do this properly. But hey, we've cheated the system and hacked our way to near instant gratification. And if that's not what science is all about, then it's probably not what science is all about. But I did it anyway. Thank you.